Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nello Reads channel. Our first Tales from Tech Support story comes from XAngel0228. I dressed down the commanding general. I recently returned to the IT world, and this story recently returned to my mind. We are having network issues here at work, so I decided to go ahead and jot this down. I know this is military heavy, but it's still concerning IT. This happened about 16 years ago when I was deployed to Eastern Europe with the Army. I was a member of the G6, basically military help desk. Despite my rank, E4/specialist, I was one of the go-to people for tech problems. Cast. Me, at the time a lowly specialist, E4, but part of the head tech team, lost hopelessly in the pursuit of getting my E5, sergeant rank. SGM, my sergeant major, E9, basically my boss on the enlisted side of things. CG, commanding general, the boss of the entire mission. For you civilians out there, he was the equivalent of a CEO. CSM, command sergeant major, my GM, sergeant major's boss. He would be like a COO. Now for some military context. We had two networks, the NIPRNet, non-classified, and the SIPRNet, classified. Then there was the top secret network. All of these were regulated by AR 25-2, which laid out very specific rules for all of these networks. One of which was you do not, under any circumstance, have the NIPRNet and SIPRNet on the same computer. There are even rules for laying out the cabling, saying you can't have NIPR and SIPR cables within a foot of each other. Now, as you can probably imagine, the majority of these people were up in age, and really didn't know the ins and outs of technology. My sergeant major got it though. He told us that he was just a nerd, and the lower enlisted, sergeants and below, were the geeks. And while he was trying to become a geek, he would trust us with the mission, and anything that we wanted to do, as long as we could justify it. He would take it to the brass and keep them off of us. So, one day, my sergeant major and I were walking and talking about some aspects of the mission, usual type stuff. We happened to walk past the commanding general's office, and we hear from inside, "Sergeant Major, OP, I need to talk to you." So we look at each other and silently said to each other, "Now what?" So we dutifully walk into the office and lock up, parade rest. "Yes, sir? Yeah, I was just wondering if it would be possible to have the NIPRNet and SIPRNet on my computer here. I don't want to have to go to another room to check the SIPRNet." My gut just flipped. I just looked at my sergeant major. "OP, you want to handle this?" I could only imagine the look on my face towards my sergeant major. He had totally thrown me under the bus. I looked at the commanding general and took a breath. "Sir, permission to speak freely?" "Of course, go ahead." I took a deep breath, say a very quick prayer, and look at him dead in the eyes and said, "Sir, are you out of your mind?" Taken aback, "Excuse me, Specialist OP." Sir, AR 25-2 clearly states that all NIPR and SIPR connections must be on different machines, and the SIPR computers go through a completely different imaging procedure than the NIPR computers do. More policies are put in place to prevent removable media and other registry entries, and put in place so that rogue software cannot be installed. But I tell you what, sir, if you want me to do that, fine. I will do it under protest. While I'm at it, I'll put in a third network card to where you can have the top secret network on this unit, so you won't have to go to the SCIF, the top secret squirrel building, to get your high-level briefs, and you won't be that far away from your coffee maker. And when all the alarms go off at the US Army Europe, National Guard Bureau, DoD, don't come crying to me. "Oh, you want me to run it to the Hooch Barracks too? Specialist." "Yes, sir, you've made your point. Both of you are dismissed." About face and walk out. Get out to the hallway. Sergeant Major grabs my shoulder and spins me around and glares me down. "Specialist OP, you don't talk to a general that way." I had permission to speak freely, and I was just quoting regulation and pointing out how insane his idea was. I did nothing wrong. Just glaring at me and eventually turns into a smile. "Good job." Punches me on the shoulder. I have never sweat so many bullets. The next day, I get a call from the command sergeant major telling me to get to his office immediately. Oh boy. So I snap to, head over to the command sergeant major's office, knock 3 times, custom. He says, "Get in here now." Uh-oh. Me, at parade rest. "Yes, Command Sergeant Major?" "Specialist OP, what did you tell the old man yesterday?" I knew the command general was out of the office because we enlisted only that term behind his back. I know, wrong. Command Sergeant Major, I just reminded the commanding general about the regulation regarding network protocols as described in Army Regulation 25-2. I know the regulation specialist, OP. Yes, Commanding Sergeant Major. He got up from his desk and walked up right in front of me. I am about 5'11". He is well over 6 foot. Somewhat intimidating. You know what problem I really have, Specialist OP? No, Command Sergeant Major. I have been wanting to talk to him like that since the very beginning of the mission, and you got by with it. You know how bad that makes me look? I should bust you back to civilian. I just did my job, Command Sergeant Major. I know, and you're dang good at it. I just stand there blankly, starting to smile and calm down. And that's why I am so happy you are on this mission with us. Internally keeping my nerves in check. I'm honored to be here, Command Sergeant Major. Command Sergeant Major slaps me on the shoulder. At ease, OP. You did the right thing. Now, I do have an email problem. Internally eye-rolling and thinking, figures. I helped Command Sergeant Major out and returned to my desk. I was promoted to Sergeant a few weeks later. I was half expecting this story to end with OP out of a job, but I guess not. He told off his boss, got praised for it, got promoted, and even got a cool Reddit story, so not bad. Our next story comes from Orgasmic. The iPad generation is coming. This one is short. The company I work for has a summer internship for high schoolers. They each get an old desktop and access to one folder on the company drive. One kid can't find his folder. It happens sometimes with how this organization was modified for COVID, as our server gets disconnected and users have to restart. I tell them to restart and call me back. They must have hit shutdown and not restart, because 5 minutes later I get a call back. It's not starting up. Long story short, after a few minutes of trying to walk them through it over the phone, I walk down and find out he's been thinking his monitor is the computer. I plug in the VGA cord, he thought was power, and push the power button. He still can't find the folder. He's looking on the desktop. I open File Explorer. I can see the folder. I don't see it. I click the folder. Okay, now I see the folder. I create a shortcut on his desktop and ask the user what he uses at home. An iPad. What do you use in school? iPads. Edit. Just to be clear, I'm not blaming the kid. I blame educators and parents for the oversight that basic tech skills are part of a balanced education. It's really crazy just how much you can do with an iPad now. 10 years ago, you could play a few games, take pictures, and write basic notes. Actually, I don't even think the first one had a camera, I could be wrong. But these days, you can do almost anything you want with an iPad. For a lot of people, like the kid in OP's story, it's really just replaced normal computers. It's sort of mind-blowing to think that there might be kids in the future who grow up without ever even using a traditional computer. But hey, that works for me. I know how to, and those skills could be more in demand because of it. Our third story comes from Sarish. Doctor had me fired. My company imploded. Back in the dark ages, around 1993, I worked for a medical transcription firm as their sysadmin. We were doing some cutting-edge IT stuff. For example, getting transcriptions printed at the hospitals remotely, using print queues with the modem number hard-coded in, and the system would look for queues with anything in them, and dial the number if it found something in that queue. It worked really well until it didn't. I was the only sysadmin in this city, so I was on call 24/7, 365, and was averaging 3 hours of sleep per night. When I could go home, I would try to catch little cat naps here and there. Anytime something would go wrong on the hospital side, I would have to go to the hospital and fix it. A few months after I started, 2 of the VPs from corporate relocated to my city, since we were the most productive city with the highest profits. The first thing they did was come up with an excuse to fire the current director. Then they took over operations themselves. Then my job went from taking care of our systems to taking care of the doctor's computers too. I did what I could, but I also started sending out resumes. Then I was told to go to a hospital and see why the printing stopped. I remember this day. I hadn't been home for 2 days and had been going non-stop for 18 hours. When I get there, someone had unplugged the modem. I plug it back in, call comes in, and jobs start printing. This doctor walks over and tells me that VP number 1 told him that I needed to go out to his house and work on his home computer. I politely explained to the doctor that I can't do that. and that I'm heading home to get some sleep. Then I head back to the office to pick up a few things before heading home. As soon as I walk through the door, I get escorted straight to the VP's office. Both VP number 1, VP number 2, and the office manager are there. They proceed to start chewing me out. I just start laughing at them. I'm the only person in 1,000 miles that knows anything about this system. They lose their temper and tell me I'm fired and am to leave immediately. I really said thank you, then left. This was December 15th, my oldest son's birthday. On the way home, I stop at a mom and pop computer store where I know some of the people to drop off a resume. They tell me that they have no openings right now, but will call me when they do. I talk to a couple friends while I'm there, then head on home. The only thing I'm worried about is telling my girlfriend that I got fired. I walk through the door, she's at work. I see the answering machine blinking, so I hit play. It's the mom and pop computer store. Our primary novel engineer just quit. Are you still available? I call them back and let them know I'll be there tomorrow. That began a much more peaceful career with better pay, rotating on call, and most every weekend and holiday off. By the way, the medical transcription firm imploded. The VPs were fired. They floundered for about a year and they were bought up by a competing firm. I can't even imagine trying to operate on 3 hours of sleep every night. To do that for a company and then have them treat you like garbage is, well, sort of on par with a lot of other stories I've read, but it's still horrible. So good job, OP, for getting out of there. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and I'll see you in the next video.